Yeah, good morning, YouTube. So we received another crate of these machined parts here, and boy, this one, I picked all the heights and numbers of all the different spacers to just fill the box, because we came right up to the very top here. So that's getting the most mileage out of the flat rate postage, because the more pieces you can ship in a given box, the less cost there is of shipping per part. And these are what we call our drive shaft spacers. So to show you how they work, this is a flange. So this could be your transfer case output flange, or it could also be the differential or third member pinion flange. So this would be the flange on the pinion gear of your differential. And the idea with these spacers is the flange has this recess, and we make the spacers with a recess, and then the drive shaft actually has a raised portion like that part of the spacer, and they fit together like that. And then the idea is you spin them around until the holes line up. So this particular spacer has 3 different bolt hole patterns. It's got this pattern right here, which fits the Toyota Land Cruisers, and then we also have a hole pattern here that fits the early trucks on the inside. So these are slotted holes, and they'll fit the later model Tacomas and 4Runners out here on the outside of the slotted hole. And we can see that here. Yeah, here's a hole that's on the inside. So this is a 60 by 60 millimeter bolt hole pattern. And this one up here is a 65 by 65. Fits on the outside of that hole. If you can see down in there, we're on the outside. And then if we go around here, we're on the inside of that slotted hole. A lot of times what'll happen is you put a suspension lift on your truck, like a Tacoma, 4Runner, pickup, FJ Cruiser, models like that. You do a suspension lift. If your axle is down here and your frame's up here, and you put a suspension lift, you're now lifting the drivetrain, your transfer case or transmission, higher up, and it's a longer distance between the two ends, and so your drive shaft pulls apart. Or on the two-wheel drives, it pulls out of the slip yoke inside the back of the transmission, and when that pulls out, there's less spline engagement, and the output of the drive shaft tends to wobble, and you get vibrations. So what you can do is put on one of these spacers and make up some of that difference in distance. So the spacer basically lengthens your drive shaft so that it reaches down to the bottom end, and it compensates for the lift that you put on, and then that helps reduce your drive shaft vibrations. I got to get all of these unpacked. We were out of a couple sizes. So we've got 3/4 inch, 19 millimeter, there's 1 inch or 25 millimeters, and then we have the 1.25 inch, which is roughly 30 millimeters, and then we also make 1.5 inches. I had those in stock, but I was out of a couple of these sizes. So yeah, just to wrap this up here, we have, of course, these spacers that I just got a shipment of. And then we have this spacer, which is what we call our triple drilled spacer. So it has 3 different bolt hole patterns. One of them happens to line up here. This hole pattern is basically the same as the inside of this slotted one, because we found that a number of vehicles that need this 65 millimeter hole can also work with a 60. So we made this one slotted because we've had a lot of customers that tried to use this hole, and for some reason they couldn't gain access to that part of the drive shaft, and they had to use the other end. So what happens is, this is the hole on the transmission end of the drive shaft, and this inner hole is the position on the pinion flange at the axle. So the same vehicle can have 2 or maybe 3 different bolt hole patterns on it. That's why we make these spacers with all the different holes. So we have this one with the 3 hole pattern, so it's got a total of 12 holes. And then we have the larger spacers, which actually overlap just barely right there. So this hole here is 65 millimeter square pattern. This hole here is a 66 millimeter square pattern, and it's also larger. This is for 11 millimeter. And then we do 77 millimeters, and then we can also put a slot here and make these work with 88 millimeter. So that's all the patterns. And if one of those doesn't work, we have blank spacers where you can drill your own bolt hole pattern. And it's just as easy as putting your spacer against your flange, either the transfer case flange or your axle pinion flange, and then just marking whichever set of 4 holes you need. Take the thing apart, drill the 4 holes, and then put your bolts in, and you can use it that way. So we've got drive shaft spacers pretty well covered. Blanks. We've got these for the older Toyotas, these for the newer ones, and then the larger ones are typically used on the Toyotas with the V8 engines. They went to a larger, much larger flange size there. So these are about 4 inches, these are about 5 inches in diameter. So yeah, I got to get busy, get these all unloaded, put them back in inventory, and update the web page to say we've got them back in stock. And then I imagine I'll probably have a bunch of orders for these today because we've had customers waiting for them. So we'll probably be shipping out half of these before the end of the week. Once they're available and people snap them up. And it's always hard trying to pick which bolt hole pattern and then which thickness spacer you need, and then get that all to work with how many and what size can fit in this shipping crate. Because if we put the bigger spacers in, we can only get I think 5 of the bigger ones. We can get 8 of the smaller ones in there, and then depending on the thickness you can get 1, 2, 3, or 4 spacers vertically. So it's always a real juggling act trying to figure out, what sizes do we need and how many of each, and try to anticipate what the customers are going to order and try to get these on hand. So we're finally back to having every single size in stock. So I got to get busy on that. If you have any questions about the spacers, I'll put a link to our drive shaft spacer page over here on the side, and you can check out that web page. And if you have any just general questions, post up in the comment section below. And as always, thanks for watching.